There are 6 places you walk through every single week without ever thinking about them. A road, a bridge, a store, a pump, a bank, a building you have been told is safe, and every one of them turns into a death trap the moment the system stops feeding it. Not because of some movie scenario, because of how they were built. The grid goes down, the trucks stop rolling, the power flickers off and does not come back. And these 6 locations flip from convenience to kill zone in a matter of hours. The people who died in the real events I'm about to show you were not careless and were not unprepared in some general way. They died because they were standing in an ordinary place at the exact moment the system stopped feeding it. And the wrong place was somewhere they trusted completely because they had walked through it 1,000 times before. The first one is the one you were probably standing on this morning. The highway out of your city, you think of it as your escape route. It is the first thing that fails. One quick thing first. This channel exists to show you what the systems around you were never built to survive. If that is why you are here, subscribe and hit the bell so the next breakdown reaches you before you need it. Now back to it. In 2005, Hurricane Rita pushed roughly 3 million people onto Texas highways at the same time. Those roads were engineered for a normal Tuesday commute, not for an entire region trying to leave at once. Traffic jammed solid for over 100 miles. People sat trapped in their cars for as long as 35 hours. A drive that normally takes 4 hours became a day and a half of not moving at all. The temperature outside hit 100 degrees. People switched off the air conditioning to save fuel. They stopped drinking water so they would not have to find a bathroom they could never reach. And here is the number almost nobody remembers. The storm itself killed fewer than 10 people in Texas. The evacuation killed about 107. The road out was more than 10 times deadlier than the hurricane. The highway kills you through something engineers call a bottleneck. A road that flows perfectly at 30% capacity locks into a solid wall at 100%. Every on-ramp becomes a merge point that stops moving. Every stalled car becomes a dam holding back thousands. And once you're inside that jam, you cannot get out. There's no shoulder to escape down when the shoulder is jammed too. The second location is smaller, and you trust it even more. The bridge, the single road out. Stop for a second, because this part is the one that keeps you alive. 3 things decide whether you get out of a place like this or get trapped in it. The exact hour the bottleneck locks, which most people miss by 90 minutes. The fuel math that tells you if you can even reach the next county, and the one route out of your town that does not funnel through the same choke point. It is all in the suppressed file, step by step. The escape window timing, the fuel calculation, and the alternate route mapping for one-way out towns. Scan the QR code on your screen or hit the first link in the description and get it now. Let me keep going, because the next ones catch the people who stayed home certain they were safe. If you live on a barrier island, a peninsula, or any town with one way in and one way out, you're already inside the trap. You just have not felt it close yet. In 2022, Hurricane Ian tore a section of the Sanibel Causeway in Florida, straight into the sea. The only vehicle route off the island, gone. If you are still watching this far in, you already understand how your own town fails better than almost every neighbor on your street. Send this to one person who lives somewhere with a single road out. They are the one who needs the timing. And remember, the complete breakdown is the file the just-in-time supply chain would rather you never opened. Scan the QR code or hit the first link in the description. Now stay with me. The next locations are the ones nobody ever thinks to warn you about. On nearby Pine Island, the single bridge was so damaged the place could only be reached by boat or by helicopter. Residents waited days for strangers in private aircraft to lift them out. And here is what you have to understand. The bridge does not need to be destroyed to kill you. It only needs to be full. One stalled truck, one accident, and the entire population behind it is sealed in. A bridge is a bottleneck with water on both sides. There is no walking around it. The third location is the one you would head to for supplies, the grocery store. You picture the store as a solid wall of food. It is not. It is a delivery point with a few days of buffer. The average grocery store holds only about 3 days of food under normal buying conditions. And 3 days assumes calm, ordinary shoppers. The moment fear spreads, that shelf empties in hours, not days. This is what they call the just-in-time system. The stock does not sit in a back room anymore. It sits on a truck, somewhere out on a highway. The exact same highway that just locked up in front of you. So the store physically cannot refill, even though the food still exists in a warehouse 50 miles away. We all watched this happen in 2020. Entire aisles stripped bare overnight while the factories were still running. The food never actually ran out. The system simply could not move it fast enough into one frightened town. And a crowded store with empty shelves and scared people fighting over the last of something is not a place you want your family standing. The fourth location strands you even when your tank is still half full. The gas station. You assume the fuel is always going to be there. It is quietly the most fragile point in the entire chain. During Hurricane Irma, stations right along the evacuation routes went from completely full to bone dry in as little as 2 hours. During Hurricane Milton, almost 1 in 4 gas stations in the entire state of Florida ran dry at once, and in the Tampa area, nearly 2 out of every 3. And there is a trap hidden inside that trap. Even a station that still has fuel stops working the second the power goes out. The pumps need electricity to lift the gasoline out of the underground tanks, so you can be standing directly on top of thousands of gallons of fuel and not get a single drop into your car. The 5th location is invisible right up until the moment you need it most. The bank, the cash machine, the card reader. You believe your money is sitting safely in your account. What is in your account is a promise that depends entirely on electricity. In April of 2025, a massive blackout hit the entire Iberian Peninsula, Spain and Portugal both at once. Card payments failed everywhere. Cash machines went dark. Bank branches locked their doors and sent people home. The people who happened to have paper cash in their pockets walked into shops and quietly bought what they needed. The people who only carried cards stood frozen, holding money they could not touch, stranded right next to full shelves. That same year in Chile, a single transmission line failed and knocked out power to over 90% of the country. Traffic lights, trains, cash machines, all dark from one cascading failure. This is not a rare freak event. It is just not advertised. The trap is that a card is not money. It is a request sent down a wire to a data center that has to answer back. And if you cut the wire or kill the power, that request never returns. The people who stayed fed that day were the ones holding paper. Everyone proud of never carrying a single bill learned in the first hour what that habit was worth. The 6th location is the cruelest of all because it is the one the authorities tell you to run toward. The shelter of last resort, the big stadium, the convention center, the place that feels safe precisely because it is full of people and officials in uniforms. After Hurricane Katrina, around 27,000 people were packed into shelters across Houston. Within days, a norovirus outbreak tore through them, with more than 1,000 treated in just 11 days. At the New Orleans Superdome, the power failed, the air conditioning died, and the entire plumbing system collapsed. A building meant to hold a crowd for one afternoon held thousands of desperate people for days. Crowding, plus broken sanitation, plus no power, is not a refuge. It is an incubator for everything that spreads between people. So here is the pattern sitting underneath all 6 places. None of them are evil. None of them are part of any conspiracy. The highway, the bridge, the store, the station, the bank, the shelter. Every single one was built for the normal day. Everyone was optimized for efficiency, which turns out to be the exact opposite of resilience. Efficiency means no slack, no buffer, no spare capacity sitting around unused. It is cheaper to run things that way, right up until the one day it gets people killed. That is the real villain in this whole story. It is not a person. It is not a plan. It is a design choice that nobody ever voted on, and almost nobody stops to question. Let me be completely honest about the limits of all this. None of these 6 failures are guaranteed to happen to you. Most days the highway flows fine, the store restocks, the pump works, the card swipes through without a thought. That smooth ordinary day is exactly why people get caught. The system works so reliably that trusting it feels like common sense. And knowing this pattern does not make you invincible. It does not turn you into a hero in a movie. What it does is make you 90 minutes early instead of 90 minutes late. And in every single event I just described, 90 minutes was the entire difference between driving out clean and sitting trapped on a dead highway. 90 minutes is the gap between filling your tank and staring at a dead pump, between buying food and fighting over an empty shelf, between a calm drive and a sealed bridge. None of that requires special gear or a bunker. It requires seeing the bottleneck before everyone else does, and moving while the road is still a road. So you are left with a very simple choice now. You can keep treating these 6 places as permanent and safe the way you always have. So you are left with a very simple choice now. You can keep treating these 6 places as permanent and safe the way you always have. Or you can look hard at the one you depend on the most and finally ask the question nobody around you is asking. What happens to this exact spot in the first 6 hours after the system stops feeding it? I pinned a comment with the 3 things I could not fit into this video. The exact escape window timing, the fuel and distance math, and the alternate route method for one-way out towns. The places were always going to fail this way. They were built to. The only real variable is whether you saw it coming in time. Look at the road you drove this morning and ask where it locks. Look at the one bridge between you and the mainland. Look at the 3 days of food on the shelf, the pump that needs power, the card that needs a working signal to spend your own money. None of it is hidden. It has been sitting in plain sight your whole life, waiting for the one day the system stops feeding it. If this changed the way you see the route you drive every single day, subscribe. The next breakdown is one most people will never see coming until they are already standing in the middle of it with no way left to move.